The series of explosions released powerful energy. Looking from afar, space began to distort, and the giant's figure was completely engulfed by the flames of the explosion. Even a thick, solid city wall would likely be reduced to ruins by such intense bombing. In a dazzling explosion, a massive fiery spear appeared out of thin air and hurtled outwards. The moment he escaped the bombardment of the giant bats, he transformed into a giant figure of crimson. At this moment, the blazing blood servant was no longer as majestic and solemn as before. Covered in wounds, with blood like that of a magma-like crimson flowing through his body, he looked like a monster pulled from a sea of blood. The moment the fiery blood servant appeared, before he could make any move, Laranna's figure appeared right beside him. Die! The great sword in Laranna's hand erupted with a blood-red sword light. Moonblade. The crimson sword light transformed into a crescent blade and slashed down. The bloodthirsty divine servant's eyes flashed with solemnity as he raised his sword to block the attack from midair. Thump! A powerful dark attribute exploded. In the air, terrifying energy fluctuations were unleashed. Laranna possesses the ability to fly, but the blood servant does not. He can briefly take off using his physical strength, but he cannot maintain that position in the air. As Laranna suddenly slashed down, he lost control of his body and fell downwards. Roar! The body is in the air. Dozens of giant dragons charged straight at him, falling with his body and spewing out streams of dragon breath. A black beam of light enveloped his body. The skin, already torn and ripped open by the explosion, began to turn purple and black, then rotted and fell off. The bloodthirsty divine servant wanted to retaliate with his sword. In midair, Laranna swooped down again, sword in hand, ready to strike. In an instant, the sword light flashed. Ding ding dang dang. The two sides had already exchanged hundreds of blows. Although the bloodthirsty divine servant has an advantage in rank, its own strength is also greater. However, the fight lasted a long time, and he was hit by various insidious moves such as Detonator and Dragon Breath. His condition was getting worse and worse, and the power and speed of his moves were gradually decreasing. On the contrary, it was Laranna who wielded the sword. As the battle continued, his expression grew increasingly frantic, and his moves became simpler and more direct. He basically had no moves left. He was just hacking and slashing wildly. A direct confrontation with the Batwings woman. The rest of the enormous body continued to be attacked by the bone dragon. On both sides of the ribs, legs, and other parts of the body, under continuous death breath, layers of flesh peeled away, revealing the stark, white bones underneath. The radiant, holy attendant looked more like a giant rotting corpse emerging from a graveyard. Bang! The body of the ancient blood god servant crashed heavily to the ground, creating a terrifying deep trench. He struggled to his feet. Dozens of golden liquids instantly solidified into thick iron chains. It pierced through his bare ribs and was firmly pinned to the ground. Countless skeleton soldiers began to climb up the ankles and chains, launching their attack. Compared to the stone steps leading to the heavens, the ground-level terrain is more suitable for the undead swarm tactics. The skeletons crawled up his feet like a swarm of ants. The numbers are increasing and the density is growing. The bloodthirsty divine servant relentlessly swung his great sword, slashing at the golden chains binding his body. Flames gathered from all directions, slaying the giant bats and skeletons that pounced on them. Suddenly, the bloodthirsty servant staggered. Lift your foot and lower your head. But they discovered that the feet they pulled out from the pile of dead that had covered their feet were devoid of flesh and blood. All that remained were bare bones. Before he could retaliate, the sound of something cutting through the air rang out again overhead. The Batwings woman reappeared and swung her sword again. When the ancient blood god servant, already unsteady on his feet, fell backward, he fell into the air, but the gold chain that pierced his ribs pulled him back down. The bones and gold chains made a strained, taut sound. Laranna continued to close in. The giant sword in his hand slashed down like raindrops. Tada! Sparks flew everywhere. The giant, who was being forcefully suppressed and had been thrown backward, unleashed a frenzied barrage of attacks. Meanwhile, the other units also continued their attacks. Skeleton soldiers began slashing along the giant's thigh, while Bone Dragon continued to spew black beams of light at areas the giant couldn't reach. Rotten, detached flesh and blood fell from the sky with a clatter. It was poured onto the crowded skeletons below. Its massive body, standing 10 meters tall, provides ample opportunity for all types of soldiers to find a place to attack. Click. As the battle continued, a loud cracking sound suddenly rang out. The bloodthirsty servant's lower body was completely severed, and his lumbar vertebrae made a cracking sound. The entire rotten lower body, reduced to mere bones, separated from the body at the lumbar spine and fell backward. The remaining upper body, it also fell uncontrollably downwards. Oh dear, that's terrible. Even though Fang Hao had seen many grand scenes and had seen many dead bodies and dismembered corpses, but the flesh and blood were shaved off piece by piece, leaving only bones, which was indescribably painful to look at. It's the kind of feeling where, through demon puppet, you can feel pain in your lower body. If the other party wasn't truly difficult to deal with. He also didn't want to kill the enemy in such a torturous way. What happened to Lorena? At that moment, Amanda landed beside her riding a bone dragon. What happened? Fang Hao asked back. Amanda glanced at the battlefield. Is she all right? Lorena's battle has become increasingly frantic. His eyes were bloodshot, and the sword in his hand was wielded like a barrier. Even people who don't know her can tell that something is wrong when they see her in this state, or they might think that she is a madwoman. Fang Hao understood her meaning and replied, "It's because of that sword. It's an orange demon weapon that increases combat power, but also lowers sanity. Are you sure this will be okay?" Amanda asked again. Fang Hao glanced in Lorena's direction again and said, "I've used it before. With her strength, these reduced sanity shouldn't be a big problem." Back in the main city, Lorena would play with this weapon every day. There were no problems when fighting the black armor boss. However, it seems that things are not quite right now. Then speed up the battle and end it as soon as possible, Amanda said, then turned back and added, "Don't give this kind of weapon to her." Okay, sure. Fang Hao nodded in agreement. Amanda departed again, riding the bone dragon towards the battlefield. The fiery blood servant's enormous body began to fall. The broken golden chains liquefied again, forming a patch of golden spears below. The spearhead was sharp, pointing straight upwards. Bang! The body of the fiery blood servant fell heavily, and only a small part of its tough skin was pierced by the golden spear. More of the parts were instead bent and broken by the pressure. He braced himself with his arms on the ground, trying to straighten his upper body, but it hasn't gotten up yet. Call. The familiar sense of crisis has returned. Suddenly looking up, he saw Lorena standing in front of him, her long sword thrusting out. The bloodthirsty divine servant's pupils contracted, and he immediately reached for the long sword beside him. A crimson sword light erupted. Whoosh! The whistling sound in the air pierced my eardrums. Blood-red moon blades slashed down like a storm, sweeping through the surrounding space. Centered on Lorena, the moon blade covered her entire body and kept swinging outwards. Puff, puff, puff. His body was covered in sword marks from the sword's edge, and blood gushed out. The blood god's servant's movements became slower and slower, unable to keep up with Lorena's speed. Puff! A deep, muffled voice rang out. Lorena's long sword pierced through the temple, penetrating deep into the head of the bloodthirsty servant. No blood flowed, but the body of the blazing blood servant remained frozen in place, motionless. Lorena drew her longsword. Its massive body stiffly fell to one side. It crashed to the ground with a bang, like a shattered clay sculpture, instantly turning into a scattered mass of bloody mud that seeped into the earth. We won. The boss is finally dead. Fang Hao was overjoyed. At that moment, Lorena suddenly turned around and looked back at her with a cold gaze. Their eyes met instantly, and Fang Hao's heart tightened. Within the regional channel, Fang Hao's shop hasn't opened yet. Is he living in the divine realm? Among those ranked at the top in the world, only Fang Hao is left. The world channel is full of discussions about him. This is truly terrifying. What level is City Wall? How can it withstand such an attack? I heard from people in the second phase that we can choose to attack later on. Maybe the big shots will attack. I just want to ask, does a female giant really exist? And does she eat enoki mushrooms? Gold my ass. It wouldn't even be enough to stuff you in there. The channel was still buzzing with discussion about the mission. Currently, both the transmigrators within the region and the individuals on the list have been identified. All that's missing is Fang Hao, the world's #1. The shop is still closed, which means he hasn't come out yet. Everyone speculated whether she had really been captured by some female giant. Wow, Lorena is amazing. This battle is all up to you. A genius girl who possesses both beauty and talent. Fang Hao controlled the demon puppet to approach and immediately began to praise it. They'll say whatever sounds nice. regardless of whether it's appropriate for the current situation. Lorana frowned at him, casually tossed the greatsword to skeleton soldiers beside her, and said in a cold tone, "No more enemies, right?" The degree of rationality decreases also depends on the user's level. Just like magic resistance, it was clearly not as serious as Lorana and Amanda thought. It has indeed decreased, but not to the point of being out of control. I casually threw the weapon out, and it didn't go berserk. But we should still be careful about this kind of thing, and maybe we can give her a new weapon later. You're all right. Are you hurt? I know healing magic. Let me heal you. Fang Hao immediately moved closer. Lorana shoved him aside and said, "It's all right. Have you ever seen a vampire use healing magic to heal someone?" That makes sense. As the two were talking, a system notification appeared again. "Congratulations, Lord. The Ancient Gods Ruins quest is complete. Countdown resumes. 179 minutes, 58 seconds. A system notification sounded in my ear, and the meteorite countdown ended. Such a battle. The main city was hit by meteorites 4 times, causing houses to collapse and the ground to be riddled with craters, leaving no flat area. This kind of irresistible, catastrophic attack is far more serious than an army siege. Previously, after each attack, the soldier, who had been hiding, would go out to guard the city wall, fearing an enemy attack. Later on, Fang Hao stopped letting people go out. Only a few spirit-binding guards remained, hiding in a safe spot on city wall, occasionally glancing outside. If an enemy appears, sound the alarm immediately, and then everyone can come out. If there are no enemies, everyone hides inside the building. The system notification now indicates that the task is completely finished. All right, the meteor shower is over. Clean up the city and move all the spoils piled up outside the city to the central square." He pulled his arm out of Mealy's arms and spoke to the people who were hiding. "How did you know?" Mealy hugged her arm again, which she had lowered. "The battle ahead is over, and the dark clouds outside have dispersed, so of course it's over." Fang Hao explained immediately. The heroes and the spirit-binding guard stepped outside and looked up at the sky. The previously dense dark clouds have dispersed, revealing a bright sky. After finding no danger, the group went outside, and Jia, sitting in the back row, slapped Mealy on the butt and said, "Stop hugging her and get back to work." Mealy blushed and retorted angrily, "And Jia, what are you saying?" After saying that, Lord's Manor was also released. The group began directing the skeleton soldiers to clear the square and roads. They began moving the spoils of war that had been piled up outside the city into the city. Although they were called spoils of war, most of them were actually just piles of scrap metal, which would be melted down after they were taken back. At the temple, having confirmed that Lorana was all right, Fang Hao, controlling the priest puppet, rushed to the spot where the blazing blood servant had died. Unfortunately, all that remains is a deep crater. Not even a fragment of bone was left behind. This also dissuaded him from taking the bones back to make Skeleton Hero. After glancing at the surrounding troops, Fang Hao immediately ordered, "Everyone, organize your forces to clean up the battlefield. Take all the spoils you can carry, and hurry up." Then he said to Amanda and Lorana, "Let's go to the temple and see what good things there are." With the order given, all the skeleton soldiers on standby began to move into action, clean up the battlefield, and dig out the equipment buried in the mud. Fang Hao, along with 2 others, separated a portion of their forces and rode directly onto the bone dragon towards the temple at the top of the stone steps. These stone steps were never built for humans. The height and width of each step are astonishing. When skeleton soldiers attack, climbing a step is like scaling a wall. This also greatly increases the difficulty of the attack. If it were a regular living beings unit, they would be exhausted before they even got to the front lines. Bone Dragon flew straight to the top, and the 3 of them flipped off Bone Dragon. A large number of skeleton soldiers are still climbing up little by little. A magnificent hall. Most of the interior area has collapsed, which was caused by the detonator bombing during the skeleton giant bat suicide attack. The remaining side is relatively well preserved. Amanda manipulated the gold to imprint the relief murals on the wall, while Lorana flew to the top and removed some of the decorations to take with her later. Fang Hao, on the other hand, focused his attention on the huge statue that had collapsed in the middle. The statue was broken in half, its upper body falling to the ground and shattering into pieces. On the half of the statue that was preserved, a crystal-like fragment was exposed, and it was not small in size. Last time, he found a scale on the statue of the merman god. I wonder what this good stuff is all about. He turned and climbed onto the altar. He took the fragment off and placed it in his palm. Divine fragments. Description: fragments remaining after the divine essence shattered. Holy crap! Fragments of divinity. A divine essence is the core of a deity's power. The vast majority of a deity's power is derived from its divine essence. In the context of time travel, it's a powerful amplification aura. Once possessed, one's body, mind, or skills can be dramatically enhanced, reaching the level of a god. The shattering of your divine status means that you have lost the power to wield divine authority. Last time, when we defeated the Lord of Thor, he dropped the entire divine core. Now only a fragment remains. It seems that these ancient gods are truly dead, leaving behind only fragments. The above hasn't explained its uses yet. So what did you find? Lorana looked around and then came over. A fragment of divinity. What about your side? Fang Hao asked. Lorana pursed her lips. Apart from the various enormous tools, there were no other items of value. Fang Hao also searched carefully. Aside from the divine fragments, there were only tall, extravagant vases and gold and silver utensils. There were no other items. At this moment, the skeleton soldiers, who had climbed up the stone steps, also came in. Fang Hao continued to issue direct orders. Move everything that can be taken from here downstairs, and do it quickly. Skeleton soldiers immediately rushed into the temple and began carrying various objects down and piling them up. Soon, between the main city and the temple, a long dragon appeared, its head and tail connected. Like ants going out to find food, one after another, they shuttled between the main city and the temple, carrying all the spoils of war into the city. It was getting darker and darker. More and more people are coming to chat on the channel. Can you guys even get into Fang Hao's shop? Even if it's outrageous, it can't be that he hasn't come out yet, right? I tried it, but it's not open yet. I guess it's already in the 4th or 5th stage. Maybe the pros discovered a bug and are using it to farm monsters, which will definitely slow things down a bit. This isn't a game. Why would you exploit a bug? Do you think the fact that we can't access the store means something happened to the big boss? You mean the big boss is dead? Ox, the world's second largest player, came out before dinner and even talked about what was happening inside on the World Channel. Meanwhile, it was already dark on Fang Hao's side. I need to wash up and go to bed. Is the shop open yet? This makes people wonder and speculate. Is the boss's strength beyond their expectations, still grinding monsters inside? Or did something happen, causing the avatar to turn gray and the shop to close automatically? The latter is unlikely, but the former speculation is also somewhat alarming. Did you push through the divine realm? It takes so long. Someone tagged Dong Jiayue to ask if her profile picture was grayed out, but received no reply. That's why it's getting so much attention. There are also quite a few people and forces paying attention to Fang Hao's progress in clearing the level. At that time, we can test whether we can bring the Alliance into the fray. My requirements aren't high. I just want the same treatment as Shanghai Alliance. Congratulations, the Ancient Gods Ruins quest is complete. Moving your main city out of the divine realm. The system's voice had barely faded when Fang Hao, before anyone could even remind them to be mentally prepared, spoke. Suddenly, everything went blurry before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in my own territory. However, it was already night, and the surroundings were pitch black and unusually quiet. Looking up, I saw a small mountain, several meters high, piled up on the open space of the square. A smile still appeared on his face. There were many casualties, but even more spoils. He glanced at the crowd and said, "Organize people to tally the spoils, then clean up the city, throw away the rubble, and fill in the holes in the ground." "Yes, sir." The crowd nodded in response. They began to scatter and get busy with their own things. And Jia, with Lorana and Amanda by her arms, turned and walked towards Lord's Manor. We sat down in the hall and started chatting. It was as if the order that had just been given had nothing to do with them. Fang Hao wanted to speak, but swallowed his words back. Okay, 2 dark gold characters, and one of them is only making things worse by trying to command. So let's just forget about it. Let's chat then. I was just about to release demon teleportation to bring Yer and the others back first. In case the wind gets strong at night and blows a few more away, then there will be nowhere to look for them. The notification sound rang in my ear again. Your reward is being processed. Rewards, plus 1,000 influence for all factions, 1 dark gold item, 1 orange faction building blueprint, plus 500 warfire coins. Oh right, There are also mission rewards after the mission is completed. I almost forgot about that. The variety of rewards may be limited, but their quality is quite high. A dark gold, level treasure, and an orange, level building blueprint. This is already a huge achievement. I just hope the blueprint isn't a duplicate. After all, each faction has a limited number of orange buildings. There are only a handful. If you make duplicates, you'll lose out, and they won't sell well either. Flame of Faith, dark gold. Category, special flame. Description, a flame formed from the power of faith, capable of providing units with a false soul fire. In Fang Hao's hand, he held a black lantern. There was no flammable material inside the lantern, only a black, green lamp stand covered with a layer of mottled rust. What is that? It looks like an obsolete item, with no added attributes and a very vague description. I took it closer and examined it carefully, then subconsciously blew gently towards the wick. Dust flew everywhere. With a whoosh, a crimson flame suddenly shot up. Startled, Fang Hao instinctively leaned back. At the same time, whoosh. Within the city, all skeleton soldiers species that lacked soul fire had crimson-colored flames simultaneously rising from their empty eye sockets. Holy crap! Everyone in the city was shocked. Dimitrika and the others quickly rushed over and shielded Fang Hao behind them. But it seems that no danger has occurred. Come here, Fang Hao tentatively said to the skeleton warrior in front of him. Tap, tap, tap. 5 skeleton warriors approached and bowed, saying, "Sir, what are your orders?" Fang Hao and the others from Dimitrika were all taken aback. Skeleton soldiers are the lowest level of skeletons, not much different from wild skeletons born from the accumulation of dark energy. Suddenly, a red soul fire appeared, and it can now respond to commands. How could it not be surprising? You can speak now? Can you speak? Fang Hao asked instinctively. The language of the dead is not the voice of the flesh. Rather, it's more like a transmission of information, directly reaching the other person's brain. Therefore, the soul is a crucial key for the deceased to transmit information. Yes, sir. Skeleton warrior replied respectfully. Because of this lantern, Fang Hao raised the lantern in his hand. The crimson flame in the lantern still burned brightly. Apart from the color, it is indistinguishable from ordinary flames. Yes, sir. Skeleton warrior replied. It's more like a repetition of what was just said. Tell me why. Fang Hao asked in a different way. The fire of faith provides us with the foundation of our souls, enabling us to understand your commands. Skeleton warrior replied, standing still. What's the use? What can you do? The basic soul will allow us to better carry out your orders. The ability remains the power of this body. Skeleton warrior continued in response. Then, Fang Hao, still unwilling to give up, continued to communicate for a while and conducted some simple experiments. I think I understand now the role of the soul in the fire of faith. Simply put, it's about giving these soulless units a false soul. That's why it's called fake. That is, he gives the impression of repeating himself and behaving in a rigid manner. For example, Skeleton Warrior. It still executes its original attributes. They are unable to learn new knowledge or complete complex technical tasks like normal souls. It's more like the program has been upgraded, but it hasn't reached the level of intelligence yet. Accompanied by Dimitrika, Fang Hao continued to inspect several military units. Apart from skeleton warriors, the other unit types, skeleton archers, undead mages, and even bone dragons, have all gained souls. Having a soul allows one to better understand the commands given. If you give the order not to damage the surrounding flower beds, Bone Dragon will carefully land, avoiding the flower beds. It is more convenient and easier to control than before. After confirming that these military units posed no danger, everyone dispersed to attend to their own work. Fang Hao also returned to Lord's Manor and hung the Flame of Faith lantern on the bronze crane stand next to the hall throne. The flames remained strong, and no smoke or smell was emitted. I don't know if this thing is even worthy of a dark gold rating. I'm alright, at least I got to use it. Even if another transmigrators got this thing, they wouldn't be able to use it. He sat on the throne. The second reward was not checked immediately. Instead, he opened the Lord's book and sent a private message to Dong Jiayue. Do you still have skeleton soldiers in your territory? Soon, Dong Jiayue replied. Hey, Hao Ji, you're out. They all say you went to treat the giantess to enoki mushrooms. What enoki mushrooms? That's nonsense. By the way, have you seen any changes in the skeleton soldiers over there? Fang Hao continued to ask. He wanted to ascertain the extent of the fire of faith. Is this only the case for the territory, or does it apply to all skeleton soldiers? A short while later, Dong Jiayue replied. I still have 5 skeleton ogres and over 200 skeleton soldiers left. Is there a problem? Fang Hao left her with quite a few troops, but after the mission, she only had this many left. No, haven't they changed at all? For example, their eyes? Can they still talk? Fang Hao said directly. It has no eyes, and it can't talk. Dong Jiayue replied. Well, it seems the scope of the flame of faith is limited. It is very likely that the coverage area only extends to the main urban area and cannot cover more distant areas. Okay, I understand. Make sure to strengthen the defenses. I'll arrange for some troops to be transferred there for you tomorrow. Fang Hao continued. Okay, thanks, Brother Hao. I'm tallying up the loot now, and I'll send you the good stuff later. Fang Hao didn't refuse. Okay, after hanging up with Dong Jiayue, Fang Hao continued to send messages to Zhang Bin, Ma Tianyi, and others. He inquired about the situation in the city and the loss of personnel. I also asked about skeleton soldiers. Their answer was the same as Dong Jiayue's. Skeleton soldiers remain unchanged. They are still ordinary skeletons without consciousness. Soul fire did not appear. The chat with the group ended. Fang Hao then glanced at the territory channel. People are still talking about the mission and how to use the loot. After all, even if you get the Titan's equipment and weapon, you won't be able to use them. He glanced at it briefly, then closed the Lord's book. Fang Hao continued to examine the second reward, a blueprint of a building belonging to this faction. Underworld Shrine, orange tuff wood 3200, ironwood 2500, fine stone bricks 2800, fine stone bricks 1800, cast iron block 850, fine iron 150, mithril 12, metal parts 550, precision parts 180, shadow is 22, traces of death 5. Description: a shrine controlled by necromancers, often used as a place for necromancer priests to discuss and study. Buildings related to necromancer? Necromancer holds a very high position in the Undead faction. It's not that they are strong in combat, but rather that some of the core technologies related to the Undead are in the hands of these necromancers and funeral priests. Amanda had tried to find a way to keep Nielsen in Upper St. Golden City, but Fang Hao didn't agree. In short, buildings associated with necromancer generally serve a certain purpose. Use the Lord's book to include the blueprint. He got up and walked out of Lord's Manor. Heading straight to the Undead area, Fang Hao chose to build on an open space not far from the Organ Museum. Large swaths of light gradually outlined the building's silhouette. From light, it gradually becomes real. The countdown timer has been confirmed. It will take about 2 hours. Fang Hao didn't intend to wait there idly, so he released the teleportation light screen and disappeared from the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was already on the giant ship, Haiching. The sea breeze whistled in my ears, and the ship swayed and rocked constantly as it moved forward. In the pitch-black environment, torches were lit on the deck. It was brightly lit. At a glance, you can see the busy skeleton craftsman. Lord, grown-ups, Lord. As soon as he appeared, the skeleton craftsmen around him greeted him. Fang Hao smiled and nodded, saying, yes, the mission in the main city is complete. Team leaders of each task force, please count the number of people. We'll head back in a bit. Yes, sir. The craftsman nodded in response. For these skeleton craftsmen who have little interest in anything, coming here is just a change of workplace. The entire ship underwent some repairs in one day. The rudder was covered with leather, the hull was reinforced with metal protection, and the mast railings were also made of steel plates and leather, adding another layer of protection. Anyway, do whatever you see. You can't just sit around doing nothing. Where are Yer and the others? Fang Hao asked a skeleton craftsman. The craftsman replied, Miss Yer and the others should be resting in their cabins. Fang Hao nodded and went straight down the stairs. As soon as we went down one floor, we saw the brightly lit cabin where all the maids had gathered. Some were playing chess, some were chatting. They all looked like they're resting. I heard someone coming down the stairs. They all looked up at each other. Upon discovering it was Fang Hao, everyone's expression brightened with joy. Master, with a whoosh, a whole bunch of them pounced on them. They surrounded him in layers. All right, get ready. We're going back. Fang Hao rubbed the few little heads closest to him. At that moment, Yer and Xiaobai walked over from behind. Yer asked, Master, is it over in the main city? When Fang Hao mentions the main city, he thinks of a city that has been completely transformed. That's all. How was your day? Fang Hao continued to ask. Maid smiled and said somewhat stiffly, it's fine. Upon closer inspection, it seems they've had their fill of fun. There's not much to do on the ship, and the area where you can move around is limited. Fishing and enjoying the sea breeze can get boring after a while. All right, everyone get ready. We're going to the deck and then heading back, Fang Hao called out. The women began to pack their belongings. Several maids, along with some fish they had caught, all ran onto the deck. Fang Hao didn't delay either. They immediately released the dimensional gate, allowing everyone to enter. Then I walked into the light curtain myself. Returned from Hidden Arms Cave. The maids and craftsmen stood there, stunned. Where's this? Where's the city I remember? What happened to this pitted and battered place after the great battle? When Fang Hao walked out of the light screen, he had just explained to everyone that the main city had gone through a battle, and although the city's buildings suffered some damage, there were also great gains. The damaged parts of the city can be repaired gradually. After the explanation, maids went to check on their own accommodations. If their rooms were uninhabitable, Fang Hao could arrange accommodations for them. Maids left. Fang Hao continued towards the new building. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the building came into view after the light faded. Underworld Shrine. Category: Special Building. Staff Capacity: 0/200. Description: A shrine controlled by necromancer priests, often used as a place for necromancer priests to discuss and study, where royal funeral rites can be learned. The place where necromancers are trained. Unlike normal barracks buildings, the necromancers here need to be trained rather than recruited directly. Select some people to go in, then train them, and finally develop them into necromancers. It's just a necromancer school. Fang Hao tried putting 200 funeral priests inside. Funeral priests can be recruited. There are as many as you need. However, the system indicated that the attempt failed. Unable to place recruited units. It also requires indigenous people, or people who have been converted. Fang Hao is out of options. Besides the recruited troops, all he has left are maids. The maids are now all at the 7th or 8th rank, some even at the 9th rank. They'll soon become heroes. Let them become necromancers, the next Nielsen. I doubt anyone would be willing to do that. Fang Hao couldn't bear it either. But there is a solution, though. They don't have anyone on their side, and Amanda's side is a land of the dead. Arranging for her to send people in to study would not only solve the problem of training necromancer, but also dissuade her from trying to win over Nielsen. It might even increase Amanda's loyalty a bit more. Return to Lord's Manor. And Jia, Lorena, and Amanda went directly to the amusement park construction site, not to the hall. You're thoughtfully prepared a late-night snack. While eating a late-night snack, Fang Hao suddenly remembered the divine fragment he had obtained in the temple and immediately began to examine it. Can devour divine fragments? Devour. The crystalline fragments of divinity transformed into a powerful energy that entered his soul directly. At the same time, he could clearly feel an energy merging into his divine essence. It became part of his own lightning godhood. Successfully fused with a divine fragment, your power of faith has been enhanced. Unlock trait: immune to fire, spirit of fire, fire resistance, immune to fire elemental effects, spirit of flame, fire type skills, effect plus 20%. In my haste to return, I almost forgot about the divine fragments. There are no prompts when the demon puppet holds the fragment. However, when I picked it up myself, the system immediately displayed a message indicating that it was being swallowed. After choosing to devour, the fragments were directly fused into the original divine essence. After the fusion, the power of faith within the divinity increased. Although the exact amount of power of faith cannot be seen, a significant increase can still be felt. This is much faster than increasing the population to enhance faith. In addition to faith, there are 2 additional divine effects: the effects of immune to fire and spirit of fire. The flame spirit only adds 20% to fire skill damage, probably because it's just a fragment. The immune to flames effect is much more powerful. It's not that the skills others use no longer harm you. Instead, the burning, poison, and spread effects attached to the skills will not take effect. To put it simply, you'll be walking through flames from now on. The flames will no longer harm you. Even the most powerful fire mage cannot achieve this effect. It's more like a fire elemental spirit, as it's composed of fire elements itself, so flames won't harm it. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps sounded, and Jia, Lorena, and Amanda walked back while chatting. I saw that Fang Hao had a late-night snack, and Jia immediately pounced on him, snatched the food, and stuffed it into her mouth, saying things like she was eating alone. Fang Hao rolled her eyes at her and said to Amanda, "Amanda, I happen to have something to talk to you about." "What is it?" Amanda sat down beside her. "I plan to build an underworld shrine in Upper St. Golden City." Fang Hao picked up his teacup and took a sip. Amanda looked at him curiously. What's that for? A place to cultivate necromancers. Necromancers are extremely important to a faction. I plan to build this building over there, and you will be in charge of it, Fang Hao said with a smile. Really? What? Fang Hao thought for a moment and said, I mainly have ordinary troops here, so I don't need too many necromancers, but they will be of great help to your development. Gold-eating queen. Amanda, your loyalty to you has increased by 1 point. Current loyalty is 99 points. The notification appeared again, and Amanda's loyalty increased a little more. Even knowing that the improvement in numerical values decreases and slows down as you progress, but I was still a little disappointed that it didn't reach 100 points. Thank you, sir. Amanda stood up and gave a slight bow. Fang Hao waved his hand. We're family. There's no need to thank me. Then he continued. The construction requires 200 people. You can go back and prepare, select the most suitable candidates, and I'll go over tomorrow to build the building for you. Amanda had no objections. He nodded and said, Okay, I'll get things arranged tonight. Kindness. The two chatted for a while. Then it released the teleportation light screen, sending Amanda back to her city. It was getting late, so Fang Hao was pulled upstairs by Lorana to rest. The next day, early morning, as soon as I walked downstairs, I saw Du Jin sitting quietly in the hall, waiting. I saw Fang Hao come down. Du Jin said directly, My lord, the spoils of war have been tallied. As he spoke, he handed the catalog list to Fang Hao. After the skeleton merchant returned, the task of counting and sorting the spoils was handed over to them. Organize and register all items according to their type. It will be easier to sell it to others in the future. Purple weapons, 17,855 in total, mostly rock bamboo hammer and flame hammer. Purple armor, 9,875 pieces. The armor set consists of 4 pieces, so theoretically there should be more pieces, but the armor is the most damaged during combat. Most of them were fried into a pulp and could only be recycled into raw materials. The biggest gain was actually those rare and precious materials. Traces of prayer, traces of the gods, the earths. There are a total of 859 such trace materials. Starlight silver, mithril, various essences, a total of 742. Forgotten soul, 34. Giant essence, 12. Next is Orange's weapon. There are 2 types, Gravity Command Greatsword, orange, and Wrathful Guardian Sword, orange. One weapon was dropped by the first wave of bosses, and the second weapon was dropped by the Blazing Blood Servant in the temple. One is a blue hero, and the other is a dark gold hero, yet they both use the same level of weapon. This is somewhat unbalanced, but the dropped equipment is only part of the reward, and even if Fang Hao is not satisfied, he can't change anything. The rest were some other items that had been looted. There are chandeliers with vases, gold and silver lampstands and plates, and Rockhead Shepherd's flute. The rewards seem plentiful, and the rank is quite high. However, it doesn't actually help much with the overall development of the territory. Weapons and armor are geared towards trolls and giants, so they're basically useless. The entire world channel, when opened, is filled with ads for troll purple weapon equipment, intended to be exchanged for equipment in human form. They simply wouldn't sell. Even if there were a few troll faction transmigrators, they wouldn't buy that many items. Have you categorized everything? Fang Hao placed the list aside. The equipment and materials have been sorted and sent to different warehouses. The plaza has been cleaned up, Du Jin continued. Yes, thank you for your hard work. It's what I should do, sir. Fang Hao nodded and continued. Have those 4 black-armored giants come to Lord's Manor. I want to have a chat with them. Yes, sir. Du Jin bowed again, turned, and walked out. The biggest gain, however, was the 4 orange giant heroes we brought back last night. I've been quite lucky, actually. Amanda, I just gave him 2 law imprints not long ago, and he's putting them to use in this task. Otherwise, this hero can only be killed and turned into a pile of mud. They left Lord's Manor. Several skeleton soldiers were standing in front of the gate, using shovels to fill in a large hole in the open space in front of the gate. With a basic soul, it becomes much easier to command the skeletons. You can tell them directly to fill in all the pits in the city, instead of standing by and filling one hole before giving orders to fill another. Thump, thump, thump. A series of heavy footsteps sounded, and 4 tall, black-armored martial gods walked over one after another. Golden eyes swept across the surroundings. When you see below, in front of the Lord's Manor, the humans, their eyes all sharpened simultaneously. A human being, a human who doesn't appear to be very strong. But then, They felt a divine power emanating from this human. They glanced at each other. Then, holding onto the long-handled warhammer, knelt on one knee. He humbly lowered his head. "Your faithful servant offers you his devout faith." They spoke at the same time, with a solemn tone. "Blazing martial god, Alanridge's loyalty to you has increased by 40 points. Current loyalty is 88. Blazing martial god, Amarag's loyalty to you has increased by 45 points. Current loyalty is 90. Blazing martial god, Alulij's loyalty to you has increased by 38 points. Current loyalty is 85. Blazing martial god, Alulij's loyalty to you has increased by 35 points. Current loyalty is 72. Fang Hao was about to speak when a series of system notifications forced him to swallow his words. "What's going on? I haven't even said anything yet, and the loyalty rating is skyrocketing. Am I different? That shouldn't be the case. Amanda only gained a little weight last night, making him feel like his charm has decreased. Why is it rising so fast now? Even if a prisoner of war hero joins a faction, his loyalty is very low. How come they've all grown to be over 30 or 40 centimeters? Instantly, the loyalty level was raised to 80 or 90. This is already considered a very high level of loyalty. He can complete any task assigned to him with great care. Take a moment to calm down amidst your surprise." Fang Hao forced a smile, looked up at the four tall figures, and said, "Yes, I feel your loyalty. Stand up first." "Thank you, great master." With a grating screech of armor scraping against each other, the four giants rose to their feet once more. Its towering form, like four small mountains, blocked out the sun in the sky. "You can just call me sir." "Yes, sir." The four nodded and answered again. Fang Hao nodded. "Let's go. I'll show you around the city and introduce you to the different areas." A giant placed him on his shoulder. The group walked outside. Not far away, maids were all peering out from the corner of the wall, watching curiously. They had seen towering giants before. After all, there were Bone Giant and Ancient Blood God Servant before, both of whom were superior to these four. "I was just curious, but not afraid." While watching, he asked Njia about the situation with these giants. And Njia, hands on her hips, began to tell everyone about the origins of these guys and what had happened yesterday. Silverwing City, Council Hall. The counselors filed in and took their seats to the soft strains of singing. As the bell rang, the 6 leaders of the upper council emerged from behind. After a brief discussion of some trivial matters, someone then spoke up. "We heard from Lermat Port that Hubert's fleet has returned. We don't know how the battle went, or whether they managed to breach Giant Claw Island. Yes, it's been more than half a month, and the coastal areas are still under lockdown. Shouldn't Lysis City provide a solution? Hubert must have already achieved some military exploits. Reveal some of them, so we can also witness the achievements of Lysis City." When the topic of sea creatures was brought up again, the members of Congress united and asked questions in unison. Although it was a question, the tone was sarcastic. Half a month has passed, and through some channels, they also received some information. As for Hubert's forces attacking Giant Claw Island, they had already been driven eastward by the sea creatures. There's no longer any talk of military achievements. Everyone is watching how Lysis City will end up, and whether Rebecca will be forced to give up her position on the upper council. The crowd erupted in chaos. Upper council location. In Lysis, Representative Palmer stood up. The noisy scene quieted down a little. She looked at him with some curiosity. Palmer coughed lightly and said, "I shouldn't be bringing this up, but since everyone is curious, I'll just briefly mention it. Commander Hubert successfully entered the central area of Giant Claw Island and destroyed all the defensive facilities of the main city on the central island." After a brief silence, then, a burst of laughter rang out. "Palmer, you really dare to say that? Do you really think we're fools who know nothing? I have heard that Hubert's fleet was driven away by the sea creatures and hid for several days before daring to come out. Palmer, be aware of your place. This is not a place for you to speak recklessly. Information travels slowly in this world. Sometimes, what happens in a place won't get out for a year or two, and it will slowly be forgotten. The Federation and the Sea Clan have now entered into a cold war, closing off their respective sea areas and severing all ties. It's very difficult to obtain any information about the other side. Last night, Hubert's airship fleet returned to the Commonwealth and docked at Lermat Port for repairs. With the successful docking, a large number of the accompanying transmigrators and soldiers disembarked and returned to their own cities. Transmigrators are not part of the army, and their methods of restricting indigenous people are not very effective against them. In addition, no one reminded them about keeping things confidential. Immediately, the story of this voyage was learned by those who wanted to find out, and the news was relayed back to Silverwing City. The specific details are not very important. However, the noble gentry in Silverwing City sifted out an important piece of information from it. The fleet was attacked by sea creatures off Giant Claw Island. After losing 2 airships, they began to flee eastward and hid for several days. I only dared to come out recently, and after firing a couple of shots near Giant Claw Island, I rushed back. As soon as this news came out, this immediately attracted everyone's attention. This morning in Parliament, people began questioning Palmer one by one. The scene was chaotic. Hearing the rebuke from below, even Doherty and Archbishop Milton looked doubtful. It seems the people in the House of Commons have received some incredible news. Bang, bang. Doherty slammed his fist on the table, silencing the room. He asked in a stern voice, "Don't make a fuss. Explain the matter clearly." Even though I asked that question, I've already heard pretty much everything. This has led some to question whether the Lysis City team is exaggerating its battle achievements. After all, news from the Sea Tribe has been blocked, so whether they win or lose is really up to Rebecca alone. Falsely reporting military achievements. Given Rebecca's boldness, it's really uncertain whether she would dare to do it. In response to Doherty's inquiry, a member of the House of Commons said, "Chief Doherty, the Hubert fleet mainly uses transmigrators. When we docked last night, we had someone inquire about it. Then, this person publicly recounted what he knew. The gist of it is that Hubert's army achieved virtually no military success and fled in disarray during the naval battle. He hid in one place for several days, and then came straight back." Upon hearing this explanation, both the upper council members and the members of the House of Commons stared wide-eyed. People didn't believe that humans were capable of attacking sea creatures, and when both sides had their own version of events, they were naturally more inclined to believe the story of defeat. The entire Federation couldn't do anything about the Sea Clan. Yet you, a small border town like Lysis, took it over? How could that be? It seems Rebecca is incredibly audacious to dare to fake something like this. If this is implemented, it's hard to say whether the upper council can maintain its position. Doherty would have killed Rebecca. The Federation Council was completely fooled by you. If we don't kill you, the entire Federation will lose face. Doherty's expression grew even more serious, and he said in a cold voice, "Are you telling the truth?" "Chief Doherty, I wouldn't dare bring this up in the council without absolute certainty," the man said loudly, his tone full of confidence. Then someone else spoke up. "I've also received the information and can confirm this." One by one, the members of Parliament stood up and confirmed the authenticity of the news. The room erupted in noise again. Their conversation revolved around the audacity of Lysis City. The upper council platform. Palmer frowned as he looked down, beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. The current situation has clearly exceeded his expectations. At this point, things might not end well. At the very least, he had no evidence to effectively prove that Hubert's army had successfully attacked Giant Claw Island. "Palmer," a cold voice rang out from the side. The area below fell silent instantly. All eyes turned to Palmer. "Chief Doherty," Palmer replied. "Explain this to me." Palmer straightened his collar, stood up, and said softly, "Commander Hubert has already entered Giant Claw City and will return in the next few days. He will then give everyone proof. See, he can't produce any evidence at all." "Palmer, stop pretending. Just ask any of the accompanying transmigrators, and you'll find out. What are you still being stubborn about? What suggestions does the Archbishop have?" Doherty looked at the Archbishop. Milton glanced down and said, "This matter concerns the entire Federation. I didn't agree with Rebecca's plan from the beginning, and now that things have escalated to this point, it's difficult to salvage. We can withdraw the location of Lysis City first, and then ask Hubert for clarification when he returns." The Archbishop had never liked Rebecca. Most of the counselors in Lysis City were his men. Now that this question has been raised, Milton will naturally not allow Lysis City to remain on upper council. "Someone come here," Doherty said coldly. Amidst the clanging of armor, 2 Hall of Justice guards came in. Doherty glanced to the side and said coldly, "Detain Palmer, suspend Lysis City's upper council status, and halt all federal operations." Upon hearing the order, the guards strode forward. Palmer's expression also darkened, and he said sternly, "Chief Doherty, this is the council. We should wait for Hubert to return before making any decisions." If we revoke the upper council's status based on the words of just a few council members, what use is the upper council? Palmer's words, however, make sense. Several people in the House of Commons launched into a tirade of accusations. If someone's identity and position are revoked right away, then anyone can talk nonsense. But Doherty clearly didn't listen to these words. He recalled Rebecca's earlier discussion with him about the plan to attack the sea creatures. Looking back now, I realize I was completely fooled. Doherty remained silent as the guards lifted the Palmer and dragged it downwards. In the House of Commons, some people sneered, while others shook their heads helplessly. The entire hall was in chaos. Various sounds mingled together. Squeak. Just then, the sound of hinges rang out, and the tightly closed main door suddenly opened. Sunlight streamed in through the door, dazzling, yet allowing two silhouettes to be vaguely seen. Who is so unruly? Are you stupid to come at this hour? Even if you didn't come, no one might notice you. But by coming at this time, aren't you reminding others that you're late? The footsteps grew closer. Everyone felt a chill when they saw his face clearly. A woman in a long blue dress, with a cold and noble face, appeared in everyone's sight. Rebecca is here. Many people present were targeting her, but that cannot be denied. This woman truly possesses a captivating appearance and charm that can make any man's heart flutter. Accompanying Rebecca was a golden-armored guard. Although a weapon had been confiscated, he carried a brocade box in his hand, and his bright eyes scanned the entire scene. Rebecca's sudden appearance threw the scene into chaos once again. The Rebecca of today is not what she used to be. That's someone who dares to challenge Doherty. He's clearly come prepared this time. Could there be some changes in this situation? Rebecca walked slowly forward until she reached Palmer, at which point she slowed her pace. Let him go. The two guards frowned slightly, gripped Palmer's arms, and tightened their grip again. Palmer was at best a civil servant, and given his age, he immediately felt the pain and broke out in a sweat. Rebecca glanced sideways at the guard beside her. The latter understood and unleashed his fists and feet. With two loud bangs, the two Hall of Justice guards were sent flying backward. The golden-armored guards accompanying him were Orange Hero, Acidi. Although its strength lies in riding, Orange's attributes are still sufficient to handle two guards. Audash! A painful groan came from the corner. Everyone was stunned. This woman is fierce. She beat up the Hall of Justice right away. Is she looking for death? Those members of Congress who had previously denounced Rebecca suddenly felt a little uneasy. Will this woman take revenge on me later? Rebecca, how dare you cause trouble here? I think you have a death wish. In the ensuing silence, Doherty's roar suddenly rang out. The roar echoed through the hall, making everyone's ears ring. Whoosh! As Doherty spoke, a large number of Hall of Justice soldiers surged in from all sides, surrounding Rebecca and her companions. With just a command from Doherty, these three would be captured or executed immediately. Rebecca felt nervous inside, but she maintained her smile. Doherty, don't you want to hear my explanation of the sea creatures? You can deal with me later, don't you think? Doherty's face was icy, but he eventually lowered his raised hand and said in a cold voice, Fine, since you're here, then tell me about this matter. I want to see how you explain it to everyone. Rebecca breathed a sigh of relief and strode up to the platform. In Lysis, take a seat at the upper council location. Acidi and Palmer stood on either side of him behind him. Rebecca, stop wasting time and tell us about the sea creatures, Archbishop Milton urged. He also wanted to see what other excuses this woman could come up with. Rebecca glanced down and said softly, Hubert has returned, and the news he brought back is that he has attacked the central area of Giant Claw Island, which is enough to prove that the Federation has the ability and power to threaten the sea people. She came here to talk about this matter, but his original intention was to claim credit and solidify his position. However, I didn't expect this situation to suddenly occur in the Parliament. If she had known it would turn out like this, she wouldn't have come. Everyone was taken aback when they heard Rebecca's words. This is exactly the same as what Palmer said. What's the point of repeating it again? Rebecca asked curiously. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Rebecca, you must take responsibility for your words. Doherty paused, then continued. A counselor questioned the accompanying transmigrators, who confirmed that Hubert never attacked Giant Claw Island. He simply hid for a few days before returning. How do you explain that? In this era, it is not uncommon for people to claim credit and seek rewards. Oh, is the accompanying transmigrators present? Rebecca asked. Doherty looked down, and the senator who had made the suggestion shook his head. What do you have to explain? Doherty looked at Rebecca. Doherty, you didn't even investigate. You just arrested someone based on a single mention. Well then, I can say he's a spy from the Sea Clan trying to undermine the council's unity and arrest him. Rebecca pointed at the man. Doherty's face began to turn pale. This woman is going to start causing trouble again. What happens to the others is none of your concern. You should explain this matter clearly first. Doherty had no patience to argue with her at this moment. Rebecca didn't want to be here, really angering Doherty. He continued, "What if I can produce evidence?" "Produce the evidence. All the merits I promised you before are valid," Doherty said. "Okay." Rebecca nodded and tilted her head slightly. "Open the gifts and show them to everyone." Asidi stepped forward and opened the cloth cover on the gift box in her hand. Facing the crowd below, he pulled back the wooden plank in front. Wow! In an instant, everyone's expression changed. Inside the brocade box was a human head, strangely shaped, with features of sea creatures such as fish gills. The crowd began to discuss it again. Whose head is this? What can a single head represent? How did she get in here? Doesn't the guards care? Rebecca looked at Doherty and said, "Others may not know him, but you should know him, Doherty, right? Tell everyone who he is, and see if it can prove what I'm saying." Doherty's eyes were filled with surprise and confusion. He recognized the head. Hirosh, the resident lord of Giant Claw Island. A purple hero. How did Rebecca manage to capture and kill the island's lord? Seeing that Doherty remained silent, Rebecca said directly, "This person is called Hirosh, the owner of Giant Claw Island, who was the one who represented the sea creatures in negotiations some time ago. He should be enough to prove everything." Oh, this. The area below was even quieter. If Rebecca dares to say it, she can definitely prove the identity of this head. There is a difference between winning and beheading the enemy leader. Killing the enemy leader is much harder than winning some skirmishes. It's like directly cutting down Doherty of the Human Federation, Rebecca said. "I know many people have a problem with me and are targeting Lysis City in everything they do, but I never expected that the truth would be so distorted and that such things would be used to slander me and Lysis City." The entire venue remained silent. Rebecca continued, "This time, the Sea Clan bullied the Federation and demanded exorbitant compensation. I didn't need the Federation to send a single soldier. I went to fight the Sea Clan myself. The airship was shot down, and thousands of soldiers sacrificed their lives. But I never expected to be stabbed in the back by my own people when I returned. What should I do?" As she spoke, her beautiful eyes were already filled with tears. Everyone was stunned, staring at Rebecca, who looked aggrieved and had tears in her eyes. "I also feel that the Parliament went too far. They fought for the Federation, and you not only reaped the benefits, but also lied about it to suppress them. Chief Doherty, shouldn't we investigate these people? Using such things to slander upper council members. What are we waiting for if we don't punish them severely? Is it what the transmigrators said, or is it the sea creature's idea? I think we should investigate this thoroughly. This matter cannot be left unresolved." Doherty's face turned bright red. He knew, of course, that Rebecca's tears were fake, but the other party had provided evidence to prove it was true. The fact that Hirosh was killed means that they must have attacked Giant Claw Island. Take these people away and interrogate them thoroughly. Guards came in again and walked toward the members of Congress who had made the accusations. "Chief Doherty, we are innocent. We only heard it from those transmigrators. We didn't know it was fake." He was dragged out of the council hall amidst pleas for mercy. After things quieted down again, Doherty took a deep breath to calm himself down and continued. "Rebecca, now that you've captured Giant Claw Island and proven the Federation's strength, what are your next plans? Tell everyone directly." Rebecca stood up and said, "It's simple. I will build a patrol team specifically responsible for the safety of ships in the Federation's waters and to prevent the sea creatures from harassing the area." "Patrol? Federation ships can't stop the sea creatures. I can do it. I already have a plan for this. Once it is implemented, the sea creatures will no longer be able to pose a threat to the coastal waters." Everyone looked up in surprise. This woman is extraordinary. She's likely to change the entire parliamentary landscape. Main city. Fang Hao led 4 giants on a tour of the city. He introduced the different races in the city, the roles of each area, and several important generals and figures. This will also help them adapt to life here more quickly. But this body type is really difficult to deal with. At the very least, the issue of where to live is a problem. Return to Lord's Manor and sit on the throne. With a hint of anticipation, I opened the attribute panels for the 4 characters. The same information about the 4 people appeared before Fang Hao. Blazing Martial God, Alan Rage. Orange Tier 10 Heroes. Blazing Martial God, Alan Rage. Orange tier, 10 heroes. Faction, giants. Template, golden. Racial trait, living beings, giant bodies, forged in fire. Legion talent, giant hero, crimson flame leadered. Skills, transformation, fire element, flame throw, fire spellcasting, divine faith, war god. Inherent abilities, proficiency in domain command, proficiency in domain warhammer, proficiency in domain tactics, proficiency in domain religious beliefs, proficiency in advanced spells. Giant body, ancient giant bloodline, increases resistance to negative attributes such as mind control, soul interference, curses, and poison by 80%, physical resistance by 65%, and magic resistance by 50%. Forged in fire, immune to fire damage. Giant hero, this unit commands giant and troll units, with all attributes increased by 50%, and eternal high morale. Crimson flame leader, this unit commands troops, increasing their combat strength by 50% and their fire resistance by 50%. Change, active. Blazing martial god can change his state to be equal to or lower than his own by consuming magic. Under the new status, the Titan body and Titan hero statuses will be ineffective. Fire, active. After being released, it can be swapped with one's own fire spell. Flame throw, active. Quickly condense a giant flaming spear and unleash a ranged attack on the target, dealing plus 75% damage. Fire spellcasting, passive. This unit is a natural fire spellcaster. Without learning or mastering it, it can cast fire spells such as Hellfire and Raging Fire, and also has a strong ability to learn magic. Divine faith, passive. This unit is formed from the faith in the gods, and this divinity binds them closely to the gods. This unit cannot be promoted through the merit trial ground. It will gain power and be promoted as it serves the deity. Martial god, active. Enter peak state. Senses are enhanced, easily perceive enemy weaknesses, immune to illusion, interference, and clone skills. All attributes plus 300%. Last for 30 minutes. Cooldown 24 hours. Description: Blazing martial god is faithful to the spirit of order, dedicating himself entirely to fulfilling God's will. Fang Hao was somewhat stunned as he looked at the series of attributes. Another faction has been added, called giants, not trolls. There is currently no such race on this continent. If so, you can definitely find it in Merchant Alliance as well. Among the racial traits of giants, there are two new traits, giant body and forged in fire. Giant body, judging from the description, it can be said to be very domineering, increasing resistance to various negative statuses, such as poisons and curses, which are useful to living beings, but are all increased in resistance to giants. Simply put, it means having good genes and a strong physical foundation. The second, forged in fire, is immunity to fire damage. This is the same as the divine fragments obtained. That's a pretty good ability too. Giant hero and crimson flame leader are two legion type skills. The first one increases the troop leading attributes of giants and trolls, while the second one increases combat power and adds fire resistance. There's not much to say. Fang Hao's side is all undead units. Even the bone giant belongs to the undead, not to giants. Giant hero is basically useless, but crimson flame leader still has some effect. Let's continue looking down at the skills. The first change made Fang Hao frown. It was a state that could change to a state lower than his own. In other words, can the four of them transform? Transformation might not be the most appropriate word. It would be more accurate to say change in physical condition. Could it be that it can shrink? The giant's height is a real problem. They can't even build houses. Fang Hao vividly remembers the skill Fire Strike, which allows you to instantly swap positions with the fire magic you cast. My own priest puppet almost got caught in this trap. The wing was damaged and is currently being repaired at the Organ Museum. Continuing to look down, Fang Hao glanced at Flame Giant Spear and then at Fire Spellcasting. The Flaming Spear is an attack method, but I don't know why it's not counted under Fire Spellcasting. Fire-based spellcasting is a skill that Fang Hao is also familiar with. In fact, it is quite similar to the Dragon Spellcasting of the Dragon Clan. The skills should be somewhat different. It looks like fire magic used by giants. Heroes with this kind of natural spellcasting skill are generally from powerful races. Divine Faith by Fang Hao looked at it carefully. According to the description, these four martial gods cannot be improved through normal means. Instead, they need to be improved along with the gods they worship. The deity, refers to that dead old god of fire? No, it should refer to myself now, since I also possess divine status, and the four of them have sworn allegiance. If one's own divine status is elevated, these four people will also be elevated accordingly. Within the territory, no one has yet attempted to advance from orange to dark gold, and the difficulty of this advancement is unknown. It's also impossible to determine which type of promotion is easier. But Fang Hao always felt that this additional ability was a limitation of the system. After all, these four are heroes awarded as a reward for completing a mission, and they can be promoted to Dark Gold heroes immediately upon their arrival. That goes beyond the scope of a reward. The final martial god skill is a powerful burst that increases all attributes by 300%. It is released when facing a powerful enemy. All in all, the skill Blazing Martial God is pretty good. She deserves Orange Tier 10. The addition of these four individuals significantly enhanced the overall strength of the territory. After reviewing the attributes, Fang Hao stood up, walked outside, and said, "Call those four black-armored giants back here." The person outside the door answered and quickly left. Before long, four tall figures walked over. Looking at Fang Hao below, the leader, Alan Rage, spoke up. "Sir, what are your orders? I see you can change shape. Can you shrink your size and become about the same size as us?" Fang Hao asked the four of them. "Yes, sir. Do you need us to change?" Alan Rage continued. "Kindness." The four exchanged glances, and a beam of light enveloped their bodies. Then, under Fang Hao's gaze, the four people's sizes rapidly shrank. He grew to about 1.7 meters tall, slightly shorter than Fang Hao. Even the black armor he wore and the long-handled mace in his hand shrank along with him. It seems that it should also belong to active equipment. "Is this all right, my lord?" Alan Ridge's voice came from within the armor. It wasn't as deep and loud as before. Rather, it is the gentleness of human women. "Well, how long can you maintain this state? Are there any burdens?" Fang Hao continued to ask. "If you can maintain this body type, you can live a normal life in the city." This avoided a lot of trouble. "It's not a huge burden. It just means my combat effectiveness will be significantly reduced." Alan Rage continued in his reply. "In this state, the giant body and giant hero status will become invalid. For these four, losing their giant bodies would reduce their fighting power by about half. It's safe in the city. There's no danger. We can just change back when it's time to fight." Fang Hao looked at the four of them and continued. "Come on, let's go inside and talk." They led the four shrunken, black-armored heroes into Lord's Hall. The four of them were also somewhat curious about this place. "Especially because of my body type, I spent the whole night squatting in the square last night." Upon entering the hall, he began to look around. Fang Hao's place may not be comparable to a temple of the gods, but it is still very good. It is fully equipped and also has decorations from different races. "Please sit down." With the maid not around, Fang Hao went down into the cellar to fetch some drinks for the four of them. When they came out of the cellar, the four had removed their black masked helmets, revealing almost identical faces. Their hair color, skin color, eye color, and even their appearance are exactly the same. "You all look the same?" Fang Hao asked in surprise. "My lord, we are sisters." "Holy crap, for sisters, that's so exciting." Fang Hao became interested, handed the fruit wine to the four of them, and then sat down to the side. She continued, "You two are sisters. Can you tell me about your lives before?" It now appears that giants were once a race, but for some reason, they withdrew from the main stage. The giant can only be seen in the system's tasks. We also talked about this last night. Perhaps because we've been asleep for too long, our memories are incomplete. We only remember that the four of us were princesses of the giant empire, chosen to be the guardian warriors of the temple. Alan Rage said softly. "Oh, do you still remember the name of your country, or what your parents were called?" A look of bewilderment flashed across the eyes of the four golden figures. In the end, he shook his head. "I don't remember anything." "Amnesia?" Fang Hao frowned and did a quick mental analysis. This is not amnesia, but a limitation of the system, just like the recruitment scrolls that transmigrators can use. The heroes summoned by the recruitment scroll possess knowledge and skills, but the only memories they retain are of their own identity. They have no other memories. Fang Hao previously believed this was a protection for transmigrators. After all, if you retain the memory of your past loyalty to the king, it increases the chances of betrayal when you meet him again. Now it seems possible that these recruited heroes have already disappeared. The memory also disappeared. It's better not to remember. Starting a new life will be less burdensome, Fang Hao said with a smile. The four looked at him with some doubt. Was memory a burden? This is the first time I've heard someone say that. By the way, I'd like to know who is the eldest sister and who is the second eldest. Alan Rage, who always answers questions, spoke first. I'm the boss. The second oldest is Amarag. The third oldest is Alulich. And the one he defeated was the youngest, Asyulich. Fang Hao couldn't remember the names of the four people either, but he received information when he looked at them. The five of them sat together and chatted for a while. Then he introduced them to several important heroes in the city. They then took them to the residential area and built houses for them. Although they are four sisters, each of them owns a house. During its construction, Silver Dragon Bait was still clinging to the wall, peering in this direction. It peeked out with its head peeking out, its face full of curiosity. After settling the four people in and having lunch, Fang Hao then went to Amanda's Upper St. Golden City and built the underworld shrine for her. After construction was completed, 200 pre-selected undead were sent into the building. Rainbow Pearl Island. Sea King Saintsbury sat on the throne of the Golden. Below stood a group of ministers from the Sea Tribe. It has been half a month since the attack on Giant Claw Island. Panic gripped all the islands of the Sea Tribe, and their meetings revolved around this very issue. While everyone continued to discuss the island's defenses, outside the hall, the sea creature's guards hurriedly entered. He bowed and said, "Your Majesty, we have tracked down the giant ship that attacked Giant Claw Island." The king frowned, and the officials instantly fell silent. "Oh, where is it? Which faction does it belong to?" the king asked immediately. Soldier immediately replied, "The giant ship is currently anchored on a small reef near the Fin Sea region, and there are signs of the undead around it. They are cleaning the hull." Fishman, the Fin Sea region is the location of the fishmen. How could it be there? The merfolk's ships? The king asked. It's currently impossible to confirm. It's quite a distance from the Fin Sea region, so the possibility of it being related to the fishmen is unlikely, said the sea creature guards. What is the troop strength like? The visible troop strength is over 1,000 people. Okay, you can go now. The guards withdrew, and the king and his officials began their discussion. After the discussion, the king immediately ordered, "Gather your forces and destroy the target ship." "Yes, your majesty." Looking eastward, the moon quietly rises. The nightstone cast a hazy glow, keeping the city lord's mansion brightly lit. Lord of the city, Miss Lorana. The maid bowed respectfully upon seeing the two appear. "Where's Rebecca?" "Madam is in her bedroom, having already washed and rested." The maid continued. "Okay, you go ahead and get busy." "Yes, sir." The woman bowed again, picked up her tools, and walked out of the hall. The two went upstairs and gently knocked on the bedroom door. Knock, knock. The door opened a crack, revealing half of Rebecca's face. He was pushed aside, and a figure rushed over. He kissed her deeply. Rebecca was startled. After realizing what was happening, she looked at the man to the side with a questioning gaze. "It seems like they're asking, what's going on?" Fang Hao shrugged, indicating that he didn't know either. It was already night. Rebecca wore a blue nightgown, revealing her fair arms and neck, as well as her glistening bare feet beneath the hem. Lorana was still wearing a dark green long dress, her straight and slender legs encased in black stockings. The two people hugged each other tightly, one big and one small, pressed together and deformed. Fang Hao ignored the two of them. He closed the door behind him, leaned against the table, poured himself a cup of tea, and ate some pastries while enjoying the spectacle before him. After a while, Rebecca turned her head to the side. His breathing became rapid as he asked, "What are you doing? You came in like this without even saying anything beforehand." Lorana licked the water off her lips and said, "Did I really need to tell you that beforehand?" Seeing that the other person was about to come up again, Rebecca immediately moved away. He said, "I have other things to discuss. We can talk about it later." Lorana raised an eyebrow. "All right, you two talk." After saying that, he walked towards the inner room. After Lorana left, he went to the inner room to make the bed. She straightened her slightly disheveled skirt and nestled sideways into his lap. "I thought you weren't coming today. The bedroom is carpeted, and people walk around without wearing shoes. Straight, rounded calves rest on one armrest, and fair, flawless feet sway gently." Fang Hao subconsciously hugged her waist and immediately felt the firm softness of her buttocks in his arms. Even through the silk pajamas, he could still feel the smooth, silky texture of her skin. "Is this how you talk about serious business?" Thinking to himself, he smiled and said, "The transmigrators had a special mission a couple of days ago. Otherwise, I would have come right away." Rebecca looked up and glared at him. You're here to see Eleanor, aren't you? Should I call her over to keep you company? Eleanor is Rebecca's personal maid. Fang Hao was taken aback, thinking to himself, of course it's the two of you together. But he couldn't say that now. With a firm look in his eyes, he said, what do you take me for? Of course I miss you. Rebecca pursed her lips, but didn't seem to care. She gently twisted him in her arms and continued, I'd never believe you. Fang Hao didn't want to continue the topic and immediately said, what happened in the council today? From what you're saying, it didn't go very well. In the afternoon, Rebecca sent a message via the communicating conch shell. I briefly recounted what happened in Parliament today. The message Fang Hao received was that Palmer had narrowly escaped jail time, and many counselors were targeting Lysis City. However, the specifics are still unclear. Hearing that serious matters were being discussed, his attitude became much more serious. It's fortunate that you delivered Hirosh's head, otherwise it would have been very difficult to handle the situation. Then, Rebecca gave him a detailed account of what happened in the council that day. The situation that unfolded in Parliament this time was also beyond her expectations. If not, Fang Hao will bring back the Island Lord's head, even if Hubert actually manages to conquer Giant Claw Island. It is also difficult to produce any effective evidence at the scene, and those lawmakers who are targeting them will stubbornly deny it. How did it end up? Did any problems arise? Fang Hao frowned. Rebecca smiled again and nodded, saying, the ending is not bad. Hubert will build a patrol fleet at Lermat Port, and he will also have your transmigrators join them. Take control of Lermat Port and build a patrol fleet. They controlled the maritime trade route, and from then on, whatever was transported here and which caravan it used depended on Rebecca's decision. With real power, more people will take the initiative to curry favor with Rebecca. Fang Hao nodded. Yes, you've thought of everything. The second thing is that I will trigger it in 3 days. I will take Doherty's letter to the Hall of Blessing and hope to gain something from it. As she said this, Rebecca's smile became even brighter. The Hall of Blessing was the place where the Hall of Justice trained its cronies. In places like Secret Realms, one can receive the legacy of older generations of heroes. It can be said that those who go in and come out are basically heroes, and no less than orange rank. This is also an important means by which the Hall of Justice has always been able to govern humanity. Fang Hao nodded in satisfaction. That's good. When you become Orange Hero, you'll be on par with Doherty. Becoming a hero is important for everyone. Power influence is one aspect, but physical fitness and lifespan will also be affected. Then, let a CD come with me. That way I'll have company and she can protect me. Rebecca's eyes widened, full of anticipation. It seems that he was still a little scared about going out. Fang Hao thought for a moment and realized that there were enough heroes in the territory, so assigning a CD to protect her wouldn't have any impact. Mrs. Rebecca, shouldn't you treat me to a reward? Rebecca paused, still looking at him. Didn't I give you a reward last time? Fang Hao smiled. That was from last time. Before Rebecca could speak again, he immediately put his arm around her and lowered his head. Wah! Rebecca's wide eyes quickly softened, and she opened her pearly teeth to meet the other's attack. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps sounded, and Lorana came out from the inner room. Looking at the two of them so inseparable, he sighed helplessly. I knew this would happen. He gently tapped the table, drawing their attention. Lorana shook a foxtail in her hand and said softly, I found it in the drawer. Want to give it a try and thank your good husband properly? Rebecca's face flushed red, but Lorana still pulled her into the inner room. The next day, it was already 8 a.m. when we got back to the main city. Lorana returned to her room, and Fang Hao also began to attend to his own affairs. Upon arriving at the warehouse, one is greeted by a vast collection of divine spoils. I have a slight headache. Tens of thousands of purple. The question became how to utilize weapons and equipment to exchange for territory development resources. These are all equipment for trolls and giants. Ordinary undead, with their size and weapon proficiency, cannot use hammer-type weapons. Previously, Fang Hao had considered prioritizing the use of these weapons on the Bloody Mountains troll equipment. But when I talked to Amanda yesterday, she had a different opinion. Trolls are simple-minded and warlike by nature. Bloody Mountains has no enemies and is not bordered by any other forces. Issuing them this kind of weapon equipment will only make Bloody Mountains more difficult to manage. Over time, this will increase the likelihood of riots. Amanda's words made Fang Hao realize the truth instantly. He was always thinking about where these equipment should be used, but he didn't consider that these trolls didn't go to the battlefield. So what was the point of giving them this kind of equipment? Is it used to rebel against their own rule? Upon closer inspection, These seemingly high-grade spoils turned out to be utterly useless. While I was deep in thought, looking at the pile of weapons, bite, the sound of a private message came from the Lord's book. Upon opening it, I saw a message from Bai Xian. Mr. Fang Hao, when do you have time? I'd like to meet with you and have a chat. What a coincidence. Actually, Fang Hao also wanted to have a chat with Bai Xian. Rebecca planned to assemble a fleet to control Lermat port, but the population of Lermat City was limited. Not many troops could be transferred there. Last night, I mentioned to him that with the addition of transmigrators, Bai Xian could be given a federal official position. Fang Hao also wanted to tell Bai Xian about this. Now that the other party is contacting me, I'll listen to what they have to say and then take care of the matter. After thinking it through, she immediately replied, "Okay, do you have time now?" The other side replied quickly, "If you have time, let's meet at Merchant Alliance. See you in tavern." Good. Call Dimitrika and head to Merchant Alliance outpost together. It's still the second floor of tavern. Pushing open the door, I saw Bai Xian sitting across the table. Beside him was a hero named Blue, carrying a one-handed sword and dressed like a mercenary. Boss Fang Hao. Upon seeing Fang Hao enter, Bai Xian immediately stood up with a smile on her face. The accompanying mercenary hero glanced coldly at the two, but when he saw Dimitrika covered in golden armor, he immediately looked away and sat down properly to the side. Alliance leader Bai Xian, is there something you need to discuss with me? Fang Hao sat down at the table. Bai Xian gave a brief overview of what happened when the airship fleet returned. It was somewhat like a report, and it was explained very clearly. After finishing speaking and exchanging a few more polite words, he hesitated before saying, "Boss Fang Hao, our Straw Hat Federation would like to join your territory." Oh, this. Fang Hao was slightly taken aback. Initially, Fang Hao invited Bai Xian to join his territory, but Bai Xian refused and instead transferred the treasure map to him. Judging from his appearance, Bai Xian prefers to manage his own alliance and doesn't want to get involved with Fang Hao. But now, it seems they've changed their minds. Can I know the reason? Fang Hao asked. Bai Xian thought for a moment and said, "After this battle with the Sea Tribe, we have realized our own strength. It is difficult for us to develop on our own, so we asked the big boss to take us in." From the airship, they also saw the gap between themselves and Fang Hao. It's as if an entire era has passed. Airship, orange cannon. Think back to your previous fleet, seagoing ships, ordinary field ships. One is the one who hits others, and the other is the one who gets hit. The difference is huge. With this Divine Realm quest in addition, I wonder how many people are trying to find ways to join Fang Hao's side. If I arrive late, they might not want me anymore. Your members are all willing? Are all your members willing? Fang Hao asked. Fang Hao had no reason to refuse Bai Xian's joining, especially since Rebecca was building a fleet and needed the Straw Hat Navigation Group's services. However, it's unclear whether this is Bai Xian's own idea or the idea of the entire alliance. Bai Xian maintained his smile and continued, "These things have already been discussed within the alliance, and everyone agrees to join your territory." This point was indeed approved by all members. Only the alliance leader and deputy alliance leader feel the power of the alliance. Ordinary members naturally want the most powerful figures to support them. Most people had no objection to being able to get on Fang Hao's side. Fang Hao nodded and continued, "How many people are in the alliance?" There are now 72 people, 71 of whom own cities, all located around Lermat port. There are quite a few people. Okay, I agree to Straw Hat Navigation Group joining. Fang Hao agreed. Upon hearing this, Bai Xian showed a delighted expression. She was genuinely afraid that because of her previous rejection, the other party would reject them again this time. Now it seems I was overthinking things. They're the world's #1. Why would they stoop to my level? Okay. Bai Xian hesitated for a while before finally saying this. Fang Hao wasn't in a hurry to devour her lord's book. Instead, he said, "I also have something I want to discuss with you." "What is it?" "Just say it directly, boss. The Federation plans to establish a patrol navy along the coast, and I intend to give you a few slots to place your people there," Fang Hao said. Bai Xian was taken aback, then overjoyed. "That's great. Good things come so quickly." Being able to establish connections with the federal government and obtain an official position would be beneficial for transmigrators. Having just joined a territory, are benefits already coming my way? I was glad I arrived early. If it had been a few days later, this good opportunity might have gone to someone else. "No problem. Everyone is very obedient," Bai Xian said immediately, without asking any further questions. Fang Hao nodded and said, "Then in the next couple of days, if you have time, Go see Hubert and tell him about forming a cruise fleet. He'll know. Oh, Commander Hubert. Yes, it'll still be Hubert. We'll have him give you an official position or something, and give you a post in the Federation. Okay, sure. The matter of the cruise team was also part of completing Rebecca's plan. Airships and seagoing vessels can form a patrol fleet to block the entry of sea creatures and drive away pirate ships. Bai Xian and her group joined mainly because they valued the troops they had. Increased the number of troops. We chatted for a while. Fang Hao took Bai Xian's Lord's book. After absorbing it, Bai Xian will be set as the governor of the original city again. That completes the joining process. When you get back, bring all your members in. Also, keep them in check and don't tell anyone about the territory. We have quite a few enemies too. Fang Hao reminded him again. Okay, I understand. Bai Xian replied immediately. That's all for now. If you need anything, just message me privately. Fang Hao said, getting up to leave. Bai Xian, as if suddenly remembering something, said, Boss, is my white veil queen, is it used up? Fang Hao instantly remembered the ship. It's still hanging on the side of the giant ship. I had completely forgotten about that. Ships aren't cheap, so Bai Xian naturally couldn't do without one. I'll have someone send it back to you in a couple of days. Good. Fang Hao left the private room. Bai Xian immediately opened the City Lord's book and began to examine it. Actually, there isn't much difference in functionality between City Lord's book and Lord's book. It just adds a territory channel. After opening, at the very top is a line of small print. Bai Xian has joined the chat channel. Then, a series of messages scrolled up and down. Is that Bai Xian from the Straw Hat Nautical Chart? Leader Bai has joined the territory too. Boss is awesome. At Bai Xian, please share your photos. Alliance Leader Bai. Hey bro, can I take a look at your legs? Bai Xian felt a bit overwhelmed. Was he really that famous? But he still posted a message. Hello everyone. I'm Bai Xian from Straw Hat Nautical Chart. Nice to meet you in the future. Holy crap, it really is Bai Xian. It's all because Alliance Leader Bai is so handsome. Please post a picture. Before Bai Xian could continue speaking, the City Lord's book is showing a series of prompts again. It made her heart pound faster in response to the prompts. Fang Hao shared blue with you. Blueprint, Spirit Field. Fang Hao shared blue with you. Blueprint, a large quarry. Fang Hao shared blue with you. Blueprint, Greatsword Infantry Training Camp. Fang Hao shared purple with you. Blueprint, Lionheart Knights Training Camp. Fang Hao shared blue with you. Blueprint, a cannon map for the first generation of field battles. Messages appeared one after another, like a screen being flooded with messages. I've gone to great lengths to get a blueprint, but today it's all being shared with me all at once. This feeling is like a dream. After a while, I reconfirmed that everything was true. Bai Xian picked up his wine glass, took a small sip, and tried to calm his excited emotions. This step was the right one. Bai Xian then immediately sent the message to the Alliance channel. I made an appointment with the members to join Fang Hao's territory together this afternoon. Return to the main city. It was almost noon. After leaving Bai Xian's place, Fang Hao stopped by Merchant Alliance's shop and chatted with the Goblin Moro. Not only Outpost number 032, but headquarters also received a large number of purple troll equipment. They literally drove the price of troll-type equipment down to rock bottom. Purple's equipment is now on par with Blue's. It disrupted the market balance. Merchant Alliance won't buy it anymore, and it's not appropriate to sell it as Blue. We can only put them in the warehouse for now, and equip them when we have a giant unit that is proficient in hammer-type units. After lunch, a bone dragon roared across the sky. A figure fell straight down from the sky. It has a tall and slender figure. Its body is covered with black insect armor, and it has sharp legs on its back. It was Domina, the Spider-Woman. Fang Hao contacted her yesterday and asked her to come over. Domina landed directly in the central square, looking at the city that was being filled in and patched up nearby, a hint of doubt flashing in her eyes. Has some kind of battle taken place here? Why did it turn out like this? After watching for a while, I headed towards Lord's Manor. I heard footsteps outside the door. Fang Hao looked up and saw Domina, tall and slender with skin covered in black insect armor, walk in. Lord. Domina bowed slightly. Her tall figure makes her walk like a model. However, the way the spider's back moves with its swaying legs makes it look dangerous to humans. Domina, you're here. Have a seat, Fang Hao said with a smile. Domina sat down to the side and asked directly, Sir, what happened here? I see many buildings outside that have been repaired. It's not just about repairs. Some parts are still collapsed. Yes, we were attacked, but there's no danger now, Fang Hao replied. Domina frowned slightly. Attack? Who are they? I can take troops and wipe them out. It seems they summoned her to resolve the attack on the main city. No need. It's already been resolved, Fang Hao said. His gaze lingered on Domina's rank. He's currently at Green Tier 9, which isn't really considered a high-tier hero within the territory. However, Domina is in charge of mining mithril mine within the territory. It is also very important. Once Domina is replaced, the entire web weaver camp and mithril mine will have to undergo major changes. That would be troublesome. Oh, sir, is there something important you wanted to tell me? She asked, her face flushing red. He looked somewhat uneasy, his eyes glancing in this direction from time to time. Fang Hao could tell from her expression that she was thinking of something else. After all, Domina has some unique little hobbies. It is also a way to increase loyalty. Cough, cough. After clearing his throat twice, Fang Hao said, "When you have time, take a look at this first and see if it helps you." After saying that, he took out a stimulation crystal and handed it to Domina. The latter had just taken it when his eyes widened instantly, filled with surprise. "What's wrong?" "Master, I sensed a very strong energy inside, which should greatly help our advancement," Domina said excitedly. Do you know how to use it? Sir, are you going to give this to me? Well, otherwise why would I have called you over? The description states that it is only useful for arthropod units. In the territory category, the units in Web Weaver Camp belong to the arthropod class. Moreover, Domina is very loyal and takes her tasks very seriously. The mine offers stable operations, and I also have some interesting hobbies. It's only right to offer some support. Thank you, sir. Fate Weaver, Domina's loyalty to you increases by 1 point. Current loyalty is 99. As I expressed my gratitude, a system notification appeared shortly afterward. Loyalty increased by 1 point, reaching 99. Fang Hao didn't mind and said, "No need to thank me. Let's see how to use it first." Domina nodded, tilted her head back, opened her mouth, and squeezed the crystal in her hand hard against her lips. Click, a crisp sound. The crystal shattered instantly, and the dark green liquid inside flowed into her mouth. Even the surface fragments turned into liquid the moment they shattered. Domina swallowed it whole. His throat moved. It was swallowed directly into my stomach. Domina's condition began to change. He began to breathe heavily in a sickly manner, and his skin turned red as if he had a fever. The outer shell of the insect was also black, with a faint dark green pattern emerging from it. Bang! A sound of a bowstring being released rang out. Domina's body was instantly engulfed in dense white spider silk. The next second, it quickly tightened, wrapping Domina's body layer by layer. A huge cocoon formed on the spot. The sudden appearance of the cocoon was also unexpected by Fang Hao. He believes that taking activation crystals is also a way to upgrade one's rank or increase one's basic attributes. I never expected such a big reaction. Such a large cocoon appeared directly on the spot. Tap tap, footsteps sounded, and Nisbet, who was guarding the door, quickly walked in. Hearing the commotion inside, he came in to investigate. He glanced warily at the cocoon and shielded Fang Hao behind him. Fang Hao quickly waved his hand. "It's all right. There's no danger at the moment. You guys stay here for now." "Yes, sir." Fang Hao sat down to the side, while 2 Nisbets stood guard on either side of him. Although he didn't quite believe that Domina would pose any danger to him, but some things still require caution. It will take about half an hour. The cocoon, entangled in white silk, began to twitch slightly. Under the watchful eyes of 1 person and 2 undead, the spider silk peeled away layer by layer, revealing a Domina that had become somewhat different inside. She remained tall and slender, with intricate dark green patterns appearing on her black insect armor, making her both beautiful and mysterious, yet also giving off a sense of danger. The black insect armor covered a larger area, enough to completely envelop the entire body. It looks like he's wearing a shaping bodysuit, and he even has a bit of a Spider-Man vibe. What's most striking is that Domina has an extra pair of eyes above her brow bone. Her eyes blinked and looked around. Fate/Weaver, Domina, Green, Tier 10 Heroes. Domina's hero prefix has changed. She went from being Fate Weaver to becoming Fate Weaver Spider Queen. "My lord, what is this?" Domina asked curiously, looking at Fang Hao, who had drawn his great sword and was on guard. Fang Hao came to his senses and, seeing that the other party was in no abnormal condition, put away the Thunder Eagle blade in his hand. "It's nothing. I just saw you wrapped in spider webs and thought you were in danger," Fang Hao explained, then looked at her and asked, "How are you feeling?" The insect armor on Domina's body quickly peeled away. Her head, as well as her fair collarbone and back, were exposed, it will revert to its previous state. Domina stretched her body and said, I feel like my strength has improved a lot. Fang Hao opened her profile and took a look. In terms of attributes, a new racial trait, magic spider, has been added, and a skill spider eye. Demon spider body, immune to mental control, plus 20% resistance to poison, fire, ice, and other elements, plus 25% magic resistance. The newly emerging characteristic is somewhat similar to the ancient giant bloodline of blazing martial god. Its physical advantages give it a high degree of resistance to certain conditions. What's most surprising about the demon spider is its immunity to mental control. This means that all mental control skills are ineffective against her. You should know, Domina is only green. Tier 10. The second skill, Spider Eye, can be considered an offensive skill. Spider Eye, active. This unit uses its eyes to release mental skills, causing the target to suffer abnormal statuses such as dizziness, disorientation, or loss of hostility. Good grief. So after becoming immune to mental attacks, you're using mental skills to attack others? Mental skills can actually be categorized into different types. While White Succubus can hypnotize people and induce dreams, Domina's abilities are more like disruptive skills. Fang Hao doesn't know much about mental skills, but he feels that White Succubuses are more powerful. My lord, I think I've improved, Domina said after sensing her body for a while. Fang Hao turned around, not in a hurry to take out the remaining stimulation crystal. Instead, he said, Come on, I'll take you to the training grounds first for the assessment. After Tier 10, heroes will need to undergo a hero evaluation. Domina is stuck at Tier 10, which may be due to the tier restriction. Yes, sir. The two left Lord's Manor. They walked straight toward the merit trial ground. After handing her the necessary materials and gold coins and giving her a few more instructions, Domina's figure disappeared into the altar. Instead of waiting there, they headed toward the Blackstone training ground, which was not far away. I sat down on the wooden bench by the door. Watching maids punch and kick with their surging waves is a truly spectacular sight. Bite. After watching for a while, Lord's book emitted a private message notification sound. It seems like there's a lot going on today. I opened it and took a look. This message came from Matiani. Boss, I've run into some trouble. Matiani has quite a few transmigrators under his command, so what trouble could he possibly encounter? What's wrong? The nearby orc cities are beginning to gather their forces, preparing to attack our city. The aftereffects of the Divine Realm quest have emerged. Transmigrators lost a significant number of troops in the course of their mission, with some even returning as commanders without any troops. Some of the restless indigenous people began to have their own ideas. For example, bandits or city factions with whom they previously had a strained relationship. Even if you don't die during the mission, these guys might take the opportunity to kill you. Tell me more details. Fang Hao replied. After a brief pause, Matiani sent several messages, giving a general account of the situation. Shanghai Alliance is an orc territory domain, which is not a stable place to begin with. It was quite common for them to wage war and plunder against each other. Kinravar, the orc city, is the largest city in the vicinity. Their relationship with the transmigrators has never been good, and they were previously wary of their military strength, so they didn't take any major actions. This time, they directly arranged for an orc to come and give the message. Make all the people of the Shanghai Alliance submit to them and obey their judgment. Otherwise, the Orcish army would raze their city to the ground. Matiani immediately sent someone to investigate, and sure enough, the orcs had mobilized their forces, so it didn't seem like they were just trying to scare them. After internal discussions, the Shanghai Alliance decided that, lacking a better solution, they had no choice but to ask Fang Hao for help. Notify you? You've amassed troops. Why would you give advance notice? Fang Hao asked, puzzled. Matiani said, We're a bit confused too. Maybe they want us to surrender so they can avoid wasting our troops. Or maybe this is just their old style, and they haven't changed. Style? Yes. Kinriva City is the largest slave trader, plundering and capturing orcs for sale, with business spanning the orc territory and surrounding human areas. Upon seeing this message, the greasy voice of slave trader involuntarily came to mind. That can't be such a coincidence. Could it be that the slave trader I traded with before is with Shanghai Alliance? Thinking about it, it's actually quite possible. Being a slave trader isn't something just anyone can do. The most important point is that you need a strong background and power. An orc city as a backer obviously meets this condition. It's quite possible It might just be the same group of people. We want to negotiate with you. When? Tomorrow morning. In Kinravane. I'm not sure if I should go, Matiani said. Fang Hao thought for a moment, then asked, what is the strength of the opposing city lord? A purple orc hero. I've seen him before, but he has a large army, and he has a lot of suicide squads once the war starts. Okay, I understand. I'll arrange for someone to handle this for you. So don't worry, Fang Hao said. Even with Matiani and the others' strength, they are still struggling to resist the orcs. Fang Hao also had a good opportunity to unite the surrounding orcs. All of it is included within the territory. Thank you, boss. Kindness. The two ended their chat, and Fang Hao continued to sit on the wooden chair, watching maids train. Time passed little by little. At that moment, a flash of light appeared at the center of the merit trial ground. Domina, in her giant spider form, emerged from the light. Its massive black body and mottled belly immediately caught Fang Hao's attention. It seems to have been a success. Domina got up and walked over, her body rapidly changing back into human form. Fate/Weaver Spider Queen, Domina, Blue Tier 1 hero. As expected, it has advanced to blue quality. My lord, I succeeded. Domina's face also showed a joyful expression. Yes, I knew you could succeed. Thank you very much, sir. Domina glanced around cautiously with her 4 eyes. Let's go back first and see if we can improve further. Continue to improve? Domina asked, puzzled, as she followed Fang Hao toward Lord's Manor. Return to hall. Domina continued to examine her body. Their steps moved like a sharp sword thrusting out. A whistling sound filled the air. Domina, don't break the vase. We brought it back from the dwarves. Fang Hao reminded her from the side. Oh yes, sir. Domina immediately stopped what she was doing, looking over with a slightly evasive gaze. So, sir, what are we going to do next? Let's upgrade it first. Fang Hao took out another intensification crystal and placed it on the table. Domina opened her eyes again. Sir, do you have any more? Let's try and see if we can improve it further. Fang Hao pushed the crystal forward. Domina took a serious look at it, but still picked it up. Take a deep breath and crush it above your mouth. The next second, all the green liquid flowed into her mouth and was swallowed. Domina's skin quickly turned red, and the dark green patterns on her insect carapace lit up again. His whole body felt like his blood was boiling. Mist rose from his surface, and he began to struggle, letting out gasps of pain. Domina, are you all right? Your skin is frighteningly red, Fang Hao asked tentatively. And nothing, it's just very hot. My blood feels like it's on fire, Domina said weakly. Blood burning? This situation and her condition are very similar to the effects she experienced when she took Dragon Potion. Fang Hao immediately walked out of the hall and said to skeleton soldiers outside the door, go get some cold water and put it in the bathtub in the bathroom. Yes. The row of skeleton soldiers turned around. He went to the warehouse, picked up the buckets, and began carrying them into the bathroom one by one. Domina's condition has improved, but she is still covered in sweat from the previous ordeal. Fate/Weaver Spider Queen, Domina, Blue Tier 2 hero. It has been upgraded to the next level. So one pill can upgrade 1 tier? The crystallization effect is somewhat terrifying. My lord, there's no need to keep them busy. I'm fine, Domina said. Fang Hao shook his head, took out the crystals one by one, and piled them up into a small mountain on the table in front of him. I feel that you still need them, otherwise you may not be able to finish using them all. Domina's 4 eyes widened, and her legs instantly straightened. They stared in disbelief at the small mountain of crystals before them. Sir, are these all for me? Certainly. Fate/Weaver. Domina's loyalty to you increases by 1 point. Current loyalty is 100. Seeing that the loyalty level had reached 100 points, Fang Hao nodded in satisfaction. The reason why the crystals were not all taken out at once was precisely because of this. If you don't get 2 points on the first try, you can try again with the remaining crystals. Looking at it now, it's exactly as I thought. The second time, the other person was both shocked and satisfied, and their score increased by 1 point. It reached 100 points. Looking at the crystals before her, Domina, overcome with excitement, asked, My lord, where did you obtain all of these? Didn't you just ask who attacked the city? These are the people who got them, but we can't get any more now. These are all we have, Fang Hao replied. Her eyes looked over, filled with gratitude. It's as if the main city was made into this state because of these crystals given to her. Can I give some of the crystals to the warriors of my tribe? Domina leaned forward, her face full of anticipation. If you can reach the orange rank, the rest can be used by your people. If not, then wait for the next opportunity to obtain crystals. Fang Hao needs Domina's rank to be raised. If the other Spider-Men get too high a rank, it won't be of much help to the territory. Domina has 100 loyalty points, but the Spider-Men don't have much loyalty. The Spider-Men are already strong enough to guard the mines. Oh, okay, Domina replied reluctantly. These crystals were given to her by Fang Hao, who was doing it for her own good. Although I still wanted to give some to the outstanding warriors of the clan, I didn't say much. Lord's Manor, skeleton warriors, carrying buckets of water, entered the bathroom. We'll have to wait a little longer. Fang Hao handed her the fruit wine and continued. How's that person I delivered it to last time? You mean Arrogant? Yes, you even know his name. Blood Prison is a vampire-owned building. Humans imprisoned inside for extended periods cannot survive long. Therefore, Fang Hao sent him to Mithril Mine. There are two types of miners in Mithril Mine. One type is the skeleton dwarf miner, recruited by Fang Hao, who specializes in mining and works day and night. The other group consisted of mountain bandits and robbers who were sent there. The people from the previous Doming's mountain stronghold were sent here to be responsible for mining. It can be considered a form of punishment. I have a deep impression of this person. He tried to incite a miners' riot twice. Everyone knows him. Domina finished speaking, picked up her glass, and took a sip. Oh, he went over there. Is he still not behaving himself? Transmigrators rarely give up, especially for a company like Arrogant, which is second to none. One wrong move led to its imprisonment. But deep down, he was certain that he wanted to escape and find a chance to turn things around. Later, those who participated were given to the mother spider as food, and he was also hung up for several days. Now you're behaving yourself? No, nobody believes him anymore. Those who were incited several times were eaten. He was brought back, but nobody else believed him, so it never happened again, Domina explained. Listening to Domina's words, Fang Hao could vividly recall the scene from that time. You encouraged everyone to escape, and in the end, everyone else was killed, but you were the only one who returned unharmed. Who would believe you now? They'd just think you were planted by Spider-Man to mess with them. It would be a relief if they weren't beaten to death. Fang Hao was also amused. This second-place winner does have some eloquence, but unfortunately, he wasn't very lucky. Just keep an eye on him and don't let him escape. Clear. As the two were talking, a skeleton warrior carrying a bucket of water walked in. He bowed slightly and said, My lord, the bathroom is already filled with cold water. Okay, arrange for a few skeleton warriors to wait at the entrance for Miss Domina's instructions. Fang Hao said, Yes, sir. Skeleton warrior nodded and went outside. Domina looked at skeleton warrior who was speaking, and then at Fang Hao. Is there something wrong with my memory? These low-level skeletons shouldn't be able to speak. How come he's suddenly talking and following orders? Fang Hao didn't explain to her, but said, Let's go. Cold water can relieve some of the pain. I have experience with this. The two entered the bathroom. Fang Hao reached out and helped Domina step into the bathtub filled with cool water. The insect armor covering its body began to peel away in large patches. Beneath it lay skin as white as a peeled hard-boiled egg. The insect shell covered the vital parts. She sat in the bathtub, her face flushed. Fang Hao instructed, There's a skeleton warrior outside. If the water temperature rises, ask the skeleton warrior to change it into some cool water. Next to the bathtub, within easy reach, was a small pile of stimulation crystals. The rest depends on how much Domina can improve. If this thing, like medicine, develops resistance over time and stops working, there's nothing that can be done. I understand, sir. Domina nodded, picked up a crystal, crushed it, and swallowed it. The body experienced the same symptoms as before, but it improved significantly in the water. After exchanging a few words with skeleton warrior outside the door, Fang Hao left the bathroom. By Xian City. In the city lord's palace, Bai Xian sat in the main seat, with many people sitting or standing below him. These people were all members of the Straw Hat Navigation Group, more than 20 of whom had followed Bai Xian in the battle to attack Giant Claw Island. Despite being a woman, Bai Xian still holds considerable prestige within the league. Sister Bai, what did Fang Hao say? Stop keeping me in suspense. One person spoke first. Immediately, the others also started asking the same question. Are we allowed to join? Didn't you make any unreasonable demands? That's right, Alliance Leader. You can't be foolish and wrong yourself for the sake of our alliance. Anyway, it's just enoki mushrooms, so I'll just treat it as a mosquito bite. At first, the conversation was fairly normal, but the topic started to veer off course as time went on. Bai Xian blushed from talking so much that she lost all interest in keeping him in suspense. Stop, stop, stop. What are you all saying? You've been waiting for me to take care of you for the past few days, haven't you? Bai Xian's face hardened, and his gaze swept over everyone. The scene, which had been chaotic just moments before, instantly fell silent. They scratched their heads and chuckled twice. Bai Xian continued. Boss Fang Hao is much more magnanimous than you think, and he didn't mean to make things difficult for us. So he agreed. Someone asked impatiently. Bai Xian nodded. I agree. Wow, we've joined Fang Hao's territory. The alliance leader has some influence. I heard that we can buy glass after joining. Can we install glass before the rainy season? Glass is nothing. I heard they have no worries about food and clothing. Then I can brag in the channel, and I won't be afraid of anyone. Bai Xian clapped his hands again to attract the attention of the others. He said, Boss Fang Hao said that we are not allowed to reveal anything about the territory. Don't cause trouble for yourselves. Let's be honest and stick to this big shot. Everyone nodded, indicating that they understood. Fang Hao may seem easy to talk to, but he has killed quite a few people. Bai Xian continued. There's one more thing. Limit City is forming a patrol team and has given us 5 spots. Anyone who wants to join the team, sign up now. Mimi, Sister Bai, I can do it. I want to go too, count me in. I'll go too. It'll be impressive to enter the Federation. Most people were eager to try and join the Federation's army. Bai Xian nodded and began selecting personnel. The others laughed and chatted, still talking about the various benefits of joining Fang Hao's territory. Night falls. Domina stood up from the bathtub, her body covered in glistening water droplets. The insect scales spread rapidly, enveloping the entire body like a tight-fitting suit. Stepping out of the bathroom, the hall was empty. There wasn't a single person inside. He asked the guard at the door, Where is the Lord? The adults should be in the backyard or in their rooms, Nisbet replied. Domina nodded and turned to walk towards the backyard. In the backyard, under the oak tree, Fang Hao sat on a recliner, holding a Lord's book, peering into the chat channel. Footsteps sounded, and Domina walked in carrying 2 glasses of fruit wine. Then she sat obediently to the side. My lord, I'm done. Domina called out respectfully. Fang Hao looked at Domina, whose clothes were still covered in water droplets and whose hair was still wet, and asked, Is it over? Fate/Weaver Spider Queen. Domina, Purple Tier 7 Hero. Using a stimulation crystal doesn't waste time. But along the way, Domina reached Blue. During Tier 10, several trials were conducted. The higher the hero's rank, the more difficult it is to advance. Domina tried 4 times before she moved from the Blue rank to the Purple rank. Upon returning, I continued using the stimulation crystal until I reached the 7th order of Purple. But that was the end of it. They didn't achieve Orange as Fang Hao had envisioned. My lord, I did not achieve Orange. Domina lowered her head, as if she had failed Fang Hao's expectations. Fang Hao looked away. It's okay if you didn't reach it. Just keep trying in the future. Saying that she should reach orange color was just to prevent her from being reluctant to use stimulation crystal. It's truly impossible to achieve, and there's no way to do it. I have failed the trust of my superiors. Fang Hao waved his hand. It's nothing. There's plenty of time in the future. Take it slow. Domina didn't say much, just sat silently to the side. The entire Lord's manor was empty. Maids are either training or playing at amusement park. They're rarely here. Shall I take you back? Fang Hao said. Domina felt her face burning, as if she had drunk crystals again. She bit her lip and squeezed out. My lord, when we went back last time, you said that we should continue what we did before next time we came. I don't know when it happened. She suddenly discovered that she had developed a new little quirk. Only here do I dare to indulge myself a little. After all, it seems the Lord also enjoys these kinds of mini-games. Oh, what are we continuing with? Fang Hao looked at her. My lord, you promised me. If you keep doing this, I'll go back. Domina said, somewhat annoyed. Domina is usually very serious, so this embarrassed and annoyed look is quite rare. He stopped teasing her, stood up, and asked, What should we use? Domina blushed and pulled out a wooden board from behind her. That hurts so much. It's okay, it's all right. Fang Hao took it and found a piece of cloth, then wrapped it around the surface. Domina consciously bent down. Don't hold on to that. Just hold on to the stone table. Fang Hao immediately reminded Domina, stopping her from holding onto the oak. This oak tree belongs to Sinisura, the leader of the elf tribe. It's fine as long as you don't touch it. If you touch them, the other person might come over. Fang Hao didn't want anyone to be a bystander in this kind of thing. Domina leaned forward, resting her hands on the stone table, while the insect armor on her body rapidly shrank. Her fair skin was exposed. Fang Hao frowned slightly. Are the skins of these arthropod soldiers really that white? Sir, that's enough. Seeing that there was still no movement and her body was getting a little sore from being tense, Domina turned around and reminded her. Oh, snap. A crisp sound rang out, echoing through the night sky. Red General, who flew in carrying food, was startled. Food fell into the grass, and they immediately flew down to find it. The next day, a team of 100 cavalrymen sped along the rugged dirt road. As they drew closer to the distant city, the group reined in their horses, slowing them down. The roadside was piled with wooden sticks and sheds made of rotten leather. Through the greasy leather rags, rows of iron cages can be seen, just like the docks that were once filled with containers, one after another, one next to another. The dull, numb eyes peered out from inside the iron cage, only to quickly look back. Ma Tianyi stopped looking at them and said to the person next to her, "These are all slaves from Kinriva City. They will be sold to other tribes later."